Good evening, everyone. My name is Brett Wachowski. It's about 10:30 p.m. here in Egypt, where I'm living currently, and I'm honored to say I'm one of the guest MCs for the conversations and the panels tonight here for Vested Summit 2021, the world's largest conscious tech summit and gathering, really. So this is a special event. I'm really glad to be here, and I give thanks to everyone who invited me and to everyone who's making this happen in the back end. So this year for Vested Summit, there's actually a large theme called harvesting within the idea of investment. So this is the last panel of the evening. We've had some technical delays, so we're just going to show a video in a moment. But before we do that, I just want to wish you all well and share a little bit more. So here at the Vested Summit in 2021, we've had 4 sub-themes: technology, investment success stories, global ecosystem, and consciousness. And tonight we've seen one technology, a few from the investment success stories and the global ecosystem. So we're going to finish up here tonight with a couple of guests on a panel as soon as they're ready, and we can start. So let's see. We can start the talk now. I just got word that everyone is here. So let's bring them in. All right, here we go. All right, so let's see. We'll give Alex a second to see if get on video. And in the meantime, we've got Chris here with us. Christopher Medina is the Investor Relations Associate at Scale Up Ventures. And coming on is Alex Bram, CEO of Hubtel. Let's see if we've got a connection.
Thanks for having us.
Alex, are you able to get through?
Yeah, hello.
Hi there, Alex.
Hello.
Okay. All right. We're with you here. Thank you, Alex. So this last panel is a discussion here about another investment success story with Chanzo Capital. So Chris, I'm going to give it to you to open up the conversation and bring the audience into this last bit of beautiful collective intelligence that we're doing all together here and building a real knowledge base and by sharing each other's experiences. So thank you, Chris, and thank you, Alex, for being here. Everyone out there really appreciates learning from you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Brett. Alex, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Well, it's great to meet you.
I'll pop up my video shortly.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you a second to figure that out.
That's me.
Great. Good to see you. Well, thanks for joining us. I thought it would be good to start off with kind of a high-level overview. Tell me about Hubtel, how you got started, kind of where the idea came from and where you're at now.
Oh, great. So today, Hubtel is, we help people find and buy and pay for literally anything from nearby stores and providers. So the idea is, from the start, we've been a business that helps connect consumers to businesses. And I'll tell you how we got started right after. But today, what we're doing is we're helping consumers sort of thrive in this new digital world around them. So bringing all the stores and the services that are nearby on a single application that they can use. So be it web, mobile app, or USSD, you can have access to find and pay for any kind of service, literally from church dues to school fees to betting to topping up your electricity to buying airtime to buying data, buying all sorts of services to buying food to buying medicine, to buying diapers, whatever it is that is nearby. We currently are doing this in 4 cities, all within Ghana. As a whole, as a new business model, we're doing this largely in Ghana. We're in 4 cities. We're in Accra, Tema, and Kumasi. We just opened up in Takoradi, and we're going to be opening up in Cape Coast, and then from there expand in the West Africa region. So next year is going to be a very busy for us. We plan to open up in Nigeria, do a number of cities in Nigeria, do Sierra Leone, do Gambia, do Liberia, kind of like cover the West Coast and begin exploring French West Africa as well. We think that it's a business model that's light enough, so our expansion is going to be quite rapid. The way Haptel started is we're quite an old business. So in 2005, I was just finishing university with my roommate. I got an SMS about 2 years before that, and I instantly thought this SMS needs to be for businesses, that businesses needed this to communicate quickly. So on the very last school day, we headed to town, printed our first business card, and started the company as SMS Ghana. And we grew it organically. We moved the business from Kumasi to Accra, grew the business organically. We're the first to pioneer SMS messaging as a way of providing information on banking transactions, because at the time that was a big problem, and we helped solve that with transactional alert. So we're the first to launch transactional alert. I think we're the earliest to launch it in all of West Africa. We launched that in October of 2005. Then we moved on to launch one of West Africa's earliest airtime billing service. So we had a micro billing service using SMS that could take your airtime and deliver services, microservices for such. So the biggest services amongst this was ringtones and content services from all sorts of organizations, churches, schools, all sorts. And then businesses started pushing us to try and use that same airtime to bill. So that's what in about 2008, we started the earliest form of mobile money in Ghana, trying to use SMS to see, can we create a wallet on top of SMS that you can use to pay for the businesses? We weren't that successful with it commercially, but the telcos took it to a different level when they launched mobile money in Ghana in 2010. And today, mobile money is it has transactions more than the size of our economy. It's a big game changer. It's pushed economies like Ghana into a new digital world. And so what we are trying to do as Haptel now is do the same thing we did from the start, help people make sense of this new digital world by connecting businesses to consumers and creating a platform that allows them to connect and communicate.
Wow, that's quite a journey, and congratulations on all your success. I think one big lesson that I've learned throughout my journey helping startups and advising them is that the most successful entrepreneurs focus not on product but distribution. So I'm glad to hear you talk about the scale of the size of the opportunity. So tell me a little bit more about that. Obviously, fintech and mobile payments are rapidly expanding across the continent. You're Ghanaian yourself, correct?
Yes.
So how many kind of current customers do you have in Ghana, and what is kind of the mobile adoption rate in Ghana specifically?
Okay, so we're in the middle of we're a business that is still trying to pivot away from a messaging only play to a play that is a little beyond messaging, but still has messaging at its core. So today the messaging is still a big part of our business. We've added the mobile money layer, and then we've also added the services, e-commerce, quick commerce layer to that service. And I'm glad you mentioned the thing about distribution being a very important part of a business. In fact, if you plan a business with distribution in mind, it forces you to make the product simple enough to be distributable. And I say that because, I mean, in our first business model, this is about the second time we're trying to expand on the continent. We have tried to expand before with a messaging play, and we were very heavy on the product, but the product was just not simple enough to try to expand it into many countries. So we've tried to operate in about 5 countries at the same time. We scaled it back to 3, and it was still too much for the business until we decided at the end of 2019 to just totally scale everything back and shrink it to only Ghana, build it, rebuild it, and pivot it so that we might be able to scale it, experiment it properly in Ghana, and then see if we can scale it across Africa. So that has very much been our journey in terms of customers and performance. So our old business, which was SMS, we were the biggest messaging company in Ghana. I think we consistently had market shares in excess of 60% of all SMSs sent.
Wow.
In the new business model, we are also doing quite well. In fact, 8.3% of all successful mobile money transactions are processed on Haptel at the moment. We are one of the biggest fintech, although we came to the fintech game or the payments game a bit late. We've got about 600,000 very active monthly users. And these users generate transactions worth over $4 billion in a year. We process about 8.5 million transactions a day. So we're a fairly big platform for Ghana. But if you compare our performance to what it can be and the size of the growth that we're seeing on the continent, what we are looking at is a company that obviously must be bigger than it is right now and will become bigger if we are able to continuously innovate and stay with the customer and literally simplify this everything about this digital economy for our users.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to dive into that, and thanks for just kind of summarizing all your success there. That's so amazing that you were able to process so many transactions, with the tool that you built. I'd also like to loop in Eric here, who's managing partner of Chanzo Capital. Eric, I'd love for you to maybe summarize how you got started building Chanzo, what Chanzo's focus is, and maybe speak a little bit about how you met Alex and the Hubtel team.
Well, thanks, Chris, and apologies for coming on.
Oh, I think you froze there.
A little late. So I'm part of people partners. So we are an Africa-focused VC firm that primarily invests in African tech-enabled ventures across what we call the King's countries. So it's Kenya, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa. We strongly believe that there's a new generation of African entrepreneurs that are primarily building what we call the application layer of the internet on the continent. I was very lucky to be part of the generation of entrepreneurs that built the network layer. In my earlier life, I helped build some of the leading ISPs on the continent, including Busy Internet in Ghana, during which I led the process of starting the Ghana New Ventures Competition, GNVC. And that's how I was honored to meet Alex and Ernest when they were in their final year in college. And Chris, it's amazing to see how Alex and Ernest have built such an amazing business over the last years, from me meeting them in college through our Ghana New Ventures competition. Alex is such an incredible CEO, and we are really honored to be involved with what they've been able to build from 2005 when they left college. One of the most amazing things about Alex and Ernest is that they're really great childhood friends, but also became very amazing business partners. Ernest is very shy and he's a sales guy. It's very interesting to see Ernest on the sales side of things, where he's very active. He doesn't like talking. He doesn't like media. Alex actually didn't like media. I think I might need to push him a little bit to get into media. But these guys are incredible execution guys. And, Chris, it's amazing to see Ghanaian entrepreneurs build something from the bottom up. And I can't tell you how much it is as a joy for us to be associated with what Alex and Ernest have built over the years. They actually have a third co-founder in Leslie Jima, who initially was part of the founding team and then has become a non-exec. Leslie is an incredibly accomplished co-founder of the team. As you know, Chris, every business goes through a lot of ups and downs. And as Alex has intimated to you, it didn't start as Hubtel. It started as an SMS business. So it's great to see how they've been able to go through the ups and downs of starting a business, and then sort of evolve it into what today is Hubtel. And it speaks of what we strongly believe in Chanzo Capital as the African ingenuity of entrepreneurs that are able to sort of realize their vision through just pure grit and commitment to building a business. And I think Alex and S represent what the African dream. Well, recently I've come up with a new. Well, I didn't come up with a new term, but Dr. Kobna before came out with a new called the Ghanaian dream. And the more I listen to him, the more I think that Alex and S represents what we call the Ghanaian dream, which is sort of young entrepreneurs believing in themselves and being able to build something out of nothing, into what today is, I believe, the most successful Ghanaian entrepreneur. I mean, I don't think I believe, I think the evidence show for it. The most successful Ghanaian entrepreneurial venture is Hubtel, given that it started in 2005. And today, I'm sure Alex will correct me, but the company is valued probably the most leading Ghanaian business. And now they are on track to hopefully take it to the public market. So that's the story of how I met Alex and Ernest. And I'm incredibly happy about what they've been able to do. And most importantly, bring along a team. The entrepreneurial journey is really about people. Being able to build an incredible team that believes in what they believe in and working every day towards a vision. Most importantly, through COVID. As we know, a lot of companies have died during COVID. A lot of funds have died during COVID, but they've managed to keep the vision and still executing. So I'm personally very gratified to be part of what Capital is today, and exceptionally at Chanzo Capital, me and my partners are very excited about the future with Alex and Ernest and the entire Capital team.
Yeah, that was a great summary. Thank you very much. And I think it's always great to see such a strong relationship and partnership between an investor and a founder and their team. So there's a few kind of questions I have, but one, I think we can explore kind of that relationship a little bit. So obviously you've been working with Alex for quite a while now. How have you been kind of helping him navigate the pivots of the business and kind of bringing a value add as an investor, beyond the capital that you've invested?
So probably I'll kick this off and I'll let Alex jump in. I think that one of the things that has been sort of a critical part of our thinking at Chanzo Capital is that whilst Ghana is a great market on its own, the essence of building a business is probably, in our view, to be a Pan-African business. And so, about 4 years ago, that's 2012, Alex, if I'm not wrong. So Alex and Ernest gave me an opportunity to become, actually it was the first time the second time I was employed. So I became an employee of the company. And Alex said, we're going to Africa, but we think that, Eric, you are the best person to lead us. And it was really an exciting time in my career to be part of the team that led Ernest and Alex and Capital into it was then called SMSG. We hadn't transitioned into Capital. But it was actually through that process that we realized that the business model that he had started with, which was SMS, was changing. And it was actually really interesting to see how Alex and Ernest kind of thought about the fact that the business model was changing, but we had set off to go into Africa, with me kind of leading the charge. And within that moment of 2 years, I think, we had planned to do it in 3 years. So we had planned to go into one country per year. So we had earmarked, I think it was Nigeria, Kenya, and Cameroon.
The QTA plan.
Correct. And we're going to go back to that. But what is very interesting, Chris, is that in the process of doing that, Alex and Ernest said, Eric, wait a minute. It looks like our business is changing. So whilst we had thought that we want to go into Africa with the original model that we have, which was primarily based on SMS business, they said, wait a minute, we think that the market is changing. And so maybe we want to sort of take a step back and look at our business model. Actually, within that period also, we had a very interesting European investor that wanted to invest in the business. And and I think that it was the right thing for, especially Alex was very strong on this. He thought, look, why don't we hold these investors back for a minute? Because we are realizing that our business model is changing. And we don't really have a hold on this model. So why don't we go back to the drawing board and understand what this new model is before we bring in an investor? With the benefit of hindsight, I think Alex and Ernest were right. Because if you brought an investor in the process where you were evolving, and also you had decided to expand, it could get very convoluted. Because you tell an investor, look, I'm going to market with this model, and this is what I want to become. But then in the process of doing that, you say, no, my business model is changing because the market is telling me something else. Chris, I give you this story because I think this is what has made Capital a very successful business. Is that Alex and Ernest and the leadership have always had an ear to hear what the market is saying and respond quickly to the market, irrespective of what predeterminations have been made about what the market was before. And I think in my view, that's what I have learned as an investor working with Alex and Ernest is that they are so quick to hear the voice of the market and say, wait a minute, the market is telling us something else different from what we thought the market was telling us. And the only way we are going to succeed as a business is to listen to the market and respond to that voice. Obviously, that should tell you that we had some tension, right? But as an investor, I've also know that one of the bases for a company to succeed is not in your predetermination, but it's in your predisposition to what the market is saying or what is new. So whilst we had some tension, I had to defer to them because the reality is that they run the business on a day basis. And if they are saying that we are hearing a different voice, it always helps you to respond to that. So my second point that I'm trying to make is that even though you are an investor in a business, and when you're an investor like myself, who has been an entrepreneur before, you can have very strong convictions about what the market is and hold very strong dispositions about your experience. But you must always defer to the guy on the ground. The reason for that is that even though you may be right, every experience is based in context. And when you lose sight of the context, you lose sight of an important ingredient in the determination of success. And that ingredient is context. So if I had insisted on my view on what the market was, probably would have been wrong. The difference is that even though I have an experience, Alex and Ernest were telling me something about a different experience. And it was important for me as an investor to understand that the context is different. And I think it's sort of, you may ask the question, why did you defer to them? That's the reason I deferred to them, that look, they have a different context, which was different from my context before. And it was important as an investor to defer to them in that context because they are on the ground every day and they are hearing the voice of the customer and the voice of the market. And that experience will define whether we succeed or not as a business.
Right. Yeah, I think that's such an important point. And I think the challenge as an investor is always to find the right balance of the push and pull of having those convictions of, is our previous learnings and insights correct, and should we double down on those, or do we need to pivot and act on a new insight, or try out something new, or build out a new feature, or try to pivot to a new market. So I guess having that sense of what the right call is, and being able to take in all information, and ultimately advise a company on what the right decision is the essence, I think, of what we do as investors, and as people who support startups. So I think that's a great point. Alex, do you have anything to add to Eric's point?
Except that the only thing I can add is, pivoting a business is a very difficult process. And I can imagine that it would even be more difficult if you have investors involved. And especially if the investors are not, on the ground as you are. You'd have a lot of difficulty having to explain a lot of nitty-gritties of what you are seeing. So it was probably good that we didn't, take any external investors on board. And we also had incredible support from people like Eric, who are often quicker to see the African market faster and better than an investor from perhaps Europe or the Americas would see. And I'm always saying that, and of course, highly dedicated and almost loyal staff that were willing to go anywhere that the founders of the business say they should. Because without these things, I don't think we would have been able to, pivot the business at all. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs also take money and try to pivot with that money. Almost none are successful on the continent. I don't know one. I mean, it feels to me, and I think Eric and I have jokingly said this before. It doesn't sound as much as a joke most of the time, but I don't know any tech company that has taken investor money and become hugely successful with that money out of a pivot. There's none on the continent, and if there is, I'll be glad to learn about such a business. But it goes to say a lot. To support the point Eric was saying, it goes to say a lot about uh, how entrepreneurs on the continent need to position ourselves when we are transforming or trying to transform our business with external capital. We obviously have learned a lot, and we were quite lucky because the business was very liquid. We had never taken money. We were fully in charge, fully in control. We didn't need to explain. When we brought on advisors, it was more really friendly, honest advice, and we got plenty from quite a number of very good backers who have known us from day one. And so when they are talking with us, they are considering everything, our character, the character of the founders, the character of the business, the culture of the business. So when Eric is say advising us, and I tell Eric about something we're trying out, he knows in the context that we are trying it out, and he also knows that we're trying it out to see if we can eke out a business model and all of that. That you don't really get. So sometimes I wish we had a lot more investors that are Africa led and have the kind of experience that people like Eric and co have. And I think if we had more of that, we could have a lot more entrepreneurs that would be successful at pivoting businesses.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the idea of being involved beyond the traditional due diligence process as an investor is, I think, an edge that most VCs don't really have. Personally, I'm launching my own fund, and we invest services, in exchange for fees and equity for the startups that we work in. So we help them with investor relations, putting together the pitch deck. We help them build out MVPs and products, sometimes deploying our own CTO as a temporary CTO. So through that experience, we actually get to work in the trenches, solving the hardest problems that these companies are facing alongside their teams. So I think that maybe the point is there needs to be more infrastructure built in places like Ghana to give entrepreneurs the on the ground, in the trenches support that they need to be ready to take on capital. Would you say that is maybe a main challenge that needs to be solved?
Eric, you want to take that? Yeah. So let me. So it's definitely a challenge that needs to be looked at, and I think it starts by us talking more and more about it. Because whether we like it or not, we all have in this ecosystem, we all have, shared objectives. We have common goals. If the African tech industry grows, it grows for all of us. When you have businesses in Nigeria getting $1 billion valuation, it's a great time for us to be all celebrating because it's enhancing the market. So these are some of the things that we need to collaborate about, perhaps talk more about. I still think that there are some tough conversations that African entrepreneurs and venture capital funds and private equity funds and the entire investment ecosystem needs to have. But those conversations have not been had because you have one party that's always in need of money, which are the startups. Haptel has been different because from day one, we adopted some really, really aggressive policies on how we were going to treat the incomes of the company. And so that also allowed us for years. We were very frugal, Ernest and I. We lived in our office for 6 years. We refused to, marry, have kids, any kind of dependency. We worked in the office. I mean, Eric knows our story very well. So that then allowed us to save up a lot of capital in the business, and so it gave us the freedom to be able to innovate with our own capital. Uh, so, but that is what we don't have here. You know, I mean, if you compare that to say Silicon Valley, and you hear stories of companies like Google that started with $100,000 check from an angel, and you compare it with several other stories, we just don't have that here. We just don't have that here because, and those are some of the things that we have to talk about. So I think it's definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think following the trend of Paystack and seeing some of the other companies, the large companies coming out of Nigeria, I think it's beginning to attract more U.S. investors, more international investors. So I think there's something to be said about finding the right balance of, obviously local and regional and national investors and international investors. So being able to balance the international connections that can bring in, access to other markets, plus kind of the local capital and expertise to make sure that, equity remains in the country, and as companies become successful, equity, gets recycled locally as well. So I think that's a great point and an important point, as we see the venture capital ecosystem continue to evolve. Guess I'll just wrap up with one last question.
Chris, if you may, I just wanted to ask one last point real quick. And
go ahead.
So at Chanzo Capital, we always believe that the entrepreneurs have the leverage. So I appreciate that Alex could take the lead on that, though he's always very gracious to be fair to me. To add to that point, so one of the things that we have been doing at Chanzo Capital is, in addition to providing capital and capacity to entrepreneurs, we also have a strong commitment to the community or ecosystem. We call it the 3 C's of success. So through our annual Angel Fair Africa events, we're able to bring the ecosystem together. But most importantly, what we're trying to do with this event is to catalyze local capital. In 2014, when we took the event to Lagos, Alex was one of the speakers. And I remember very vividly how Alex lit the room by telling these investors that they had started a business and pretty much not read any external capital or international capital, but being able to take the business profitable. Some of the investors thought he was making that up. And I remember one investor coming to Alex and I were chatting and said, Alex, are you blowing smoke or what? They couldn't believe that, they'd been able to get a business profitability without any external investment. So 2 points. One is the fact that Alex and Ernest and Leslie at an early stage of the business, and later on Kojo City, who became the CTO, focused on the unit economics of the business, which is something that we learned at Chanzo Capital that tried to somehow we're trying to infuse this into the subsequent company that we invested in, is to get our entrepreneurs to focus on unit economics. First, understand business model, focus on unit economics, make sure that unit economics are strong before you start scaling. I mean, to be honest, it's not an easy thing to do. Which is why Alice, Ernest, and Leslie we celebrate them for being able to get it right. Very few people are able to get it right. But it's important that you focus on that in the early stages of a business. And fast forward, we have tried to push this in what we do, annually through our Angel Fair Africa event, where every year we select about 10 to 20 entrepreneurs. We invite about 40 to 50 investors, and we go to a city in Africa. And the three things we've tried to achieve with this event, the first is obviously we want deals to happen, right? We want entrepreneurs to meet investors, an entrepreneur's pitch, and investors invest in them. But the second most important thing is that we try to spotlight these African cities that people never experience. Hopefully, we want to bring it to Egypt at some point. The important thing is that this entrepreneurial spirit that is running across the continent, it's not only happening in the mainstream cities that I christen as the kings. Today Egypt is attracting some of the leading. I mean, this year Egypt was among the 4 countries on the continent that attracted the most investments. I mean, countries like Senegal have become also very crucial, producing one of the unicorns this year. Tanzania, Uganda, Mozambique. And we are excited that we've been able to take our event to these countries as well. But most importantly, we've seen this innovation spirit in countries like, Benin, where I was yesterday. The day before I was in Lomé, Togo, where we're seeing the same entrepreneurial spirit. We've seen it in countries like Benin. We've seen it in Mali. We've seen it in Uganda. We've seen it in Zambia. So it's really encouraging to see that across the continent, there's a new generation of entrepreneurs that are building what we call in Chanzo Capital the next MTN and the next most successful business across the continent. And so through our Angel Fair Africa event, we're able to spotlight these countries and we're able to bring the two communities together. The third thing that we try to achieve, Chris, to your point, is that we really believe that even though we are not able to invest in all entrepreneurs, it's important for us to build that ecosystem, that infrastructure that is critical for making sure that entrepreneurs are able to interact with each other, but most importantly, also investors are able to have a constant interaction, compare notes, share ideas, and co-invest. Because at the end of the day, Africa is such a big continent that everybody can be successful. And we being successful doesn't mean that another investment firm has to, this old mindset of if I succeed, you have to fail. We have to overcome that mindset. Because Africa is an abundance continent. So we need to think about the fact that we say in Chanzo Capital that it's the more the merrier. It's not the survival of the fittest, right? So we want to succeed, but the more venture funds that succeed, the better for us. So whilst we want to encourage more local capital to be unleashed on the continent, we have nothing against international capital. It's good to also have international capital. But the reality is that you need a balance of local and international capital because local capital comes with a certain local knowledge and experience that international capital doesn't have. And if you have too much international capital, it creates a certain disorder, right? So local investors and international investors, we need to have that constant interaction where there is a balance of approaches, there's a balance of thoughts, and also there's a balance of deed, so that we are all at the end of the day enriching the industry. And at the end of the day, backing entrepreneurs like Ernest and Ernest. Because we believe that at the end of the day, we the investors don't have the leverage. It's the entrepreneurs that have. They are the guys that are fully invested in these businesses. They are the entrepreneurs that dream to change the world. They are the entrepreneurs that really are going to change Africa. So it's important that we understand that whilst we are active participants, we have to allow them to lead, and we back them. And this really, that's what an investor does. You back an entrepreneur. You don't lead.
Yeah, those are great points. Let's wrap up with one last question, and I think I just want to give you both the floor to give an elevator pitch about what you're working on. So Alex, maybe just a quick 30-second to a minute summary of kind of where you're at with Hubtel, if you're raising any capital right now, and what you like to be able to accomplish in the next year. And the same goes for you, Eric.
Okay. So you timing me? I'm not a big fan of elevator pitches, but let me take a go. So Hubtel is currently, we're helping consumers thrive in the emerging digital economy in Africa through our Shopitality, what we call our Shopitality platform, which basically tries to blur the lines between online shopping and offline experiences for different kinds of services on the continent. We're currently trending at about 84% annual year-on-year growth on the dollar. We are growing our transactions at an explosive rate. Last year, we processed about 2 billion CD worth of transactions, which is about $400 million worth of transactions. This year, we are on course to close the year with about $4 billion worth of transactions. We're growing incredibly fast. We're opening up in new cities. We're perfecting our business model. We think if the business continues to grow, this business is headed straight for the public market. There's still a bit of things for us to do. So our plan is to raise some capital. We'll go as far as, because the business is also quite liquid and also profitable. There are very few businesses that can say they are tech businesses that can say they are trying to build a super app and they are profitable whilst building it. We are very profitable from start. Our profit margins about our gross profit margins about 40%. Our net profit margins is between 15 and 18%. So it's largely a very profitable business. Because of how we're doing it, because of the experiences that we have, we didn't just start this from scratch. We have a lot of technologies that we're riding on that is peculiar to Africa. And with that in our say, we believe we're going to be able to meet our numbers.
Awesome. Eric?
Well, I mean, we continue to back entrepreneurs like Alex and Ernest and others in our portfolio. If you're a local investor, we think that now is the time for you to start diversifying into technology and tech-enabled businesses. And the best way to do it is to work with existing investors like ourselves. If you are an international investor, Africa is the next opportunity. The next frontier is Africa. But the best way to execute is, again, to work with local investors or people who are already on the ground. It looks easy, but it's not as easy. And if you work with existing investors on the ground, you can avoid a lot of mistakes and you can leverage and get to profitability sooner than later.
Great. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you both one-on-one. I'm really interested to learn more about what you're building, and I agree. I think there's so much work that needs to be done to support the African entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I'm glad to have met you both today, and I'm looking forward to working together. Brett, if you're there, would you like to lead us out?
Hey there, gentlemen. Thank you for a most, I would say, uplifting conversation, first of all. We've had several panels tonight that I've been emceeing for and listening to, and the last one was called Bridging Silicon Valley to the Middle East. And of course, we were talking about, well, it was interesting because they talked about what needed to be exported most was the spirit of Silicon Valley, of doing the impossible, of networking, of community and culture. And now that I realize after listening to you gentlemen, the bridge goes both ways. And what I heard was the spirit and part of me, like of African culture or something like Ubuntu, like, all ships rise, that you don't have to lose for someone else to win. I mean, to be honest with you, my heart lights up. I want to acknowledge you guys and your beautiful smiles and your energy. Like, clearly, Africa has the spirit of entrepreneurship and the vibe already, and Africa has something massive to bring across that bridge as well. Because for me, the new investment and paradigm and innovation is about family and this one planet we all share. So I want to thank you guys, Alex and Eric and Chris, for being like role models of, I guess, getting stuff done on one hand and also bringing the love. So thank you for all the work you do in the world, and thank you for being part of the summit this year.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. We actually have one more presentation coming up. I want everyone to stay tuned. There were some technical issues earlier today, so we actually have the keynote coming up by Dirk. There's going to be a video, and then some of the team is going to sign out later for the evening. So my name is Brett Wachowski. I'm so grateful to have been here. Thank you for having the Vested Summit, and we're going to now tune in. I hope everyone can meet us over there to see the keynote video. Thanks again, Eric, Alex, and Chris. Really appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
All right.